Well, don't be deceived by the warm handshake, because obviously it's in a room full of world leaders. This is just not on. You just cannot kill innocent bystanders to this war. They were killed by American fire, which is a friendly nation, and friendly nations don't don't shoot at each other's citizens.
अध्यक्षों का एक मंच पे आना है तो ये वो भी दिखाता है कि किस तरह से इस मंच पर मौजूद कई ऐसे राष्ट्र अध्यक्ष हैं जो दुनिया की ताकत को मजबूत कर रहे हैं। और आप ये देख रहे हैं अमेरिका के राष्ट्रपति डोनाल्ड ट्रंप के साथ प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी की मुलाकात।
Oh, absolutely. In fact, there was this pretty striking picture that happened in the earlier session, in the morning session. All the European leaders had gathered there. Chancellor Merz of Germany, Emmanuel Macron, the host, Keir Starmer, the Italian Prime Minister. They were all on one side of the room, one side of the table essentially. And you had President Trump all alone standing in the other side of the room. And that kind of captured the picture in the room. Clearly, Trump is not the favorite in this room. As far as the Iran war is concerned, Europe, right from day one, and we saw a rare sign of unity between the four European nations, the Western European nations, Britain, Germany, France, and Italy, that they don't want to have any part as far as the Iran war is concerned. In fact, yesterday when he met Macron, and this again has been one of the points of contention between Europe on the one side and the United States, Trump never wanted any other party or any other country to provide any kind of military safe passage for commercial tankers. France had proposed that. I think Britain had backed that as well. But Trump said no. But yesterday, finally having realized that this is not a winning war, this is perhaps an unwinnable war, and that they have to move towards a peace agreement, Trump did concede that it would be a good idea if countries like France can send their military vessels in order to ensure that there is safe passage for commercial tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. So the divisions in NATO predate the Iran war. They've been fundamentally divided over the Ukraine war. Trump has been fundamentally saying from day one that if he were president, the war would have never started, and that Zelensky should concede, and that they should find a peace agreement, and that he essentially believes that Putin was justified, at least to some degree, in the war that he undertook in Ukraine. And that's a fundamental point of difference between him and the European leaders, and that, of course, drove a huge wedge in NATO. This time around, the second war, the Iran war, was started by America and Israel. Europe wanted to have nothing to do with it, and now I think now that 3 months have passed in this war and Donald Trump has realized there is no way America can win this war, I think he's trying to find this peace deal and extricate himself politically as well as extricate the United States out of this war, because there are very few good options left. In fact, all the options on the table are bad options, and if you look at it, all the clauses of this draft memorandum of agreement that has been circulating on social media, on almost all the clauses, the nuclear question, the Strait of Hormuz reopening, the war reparations, the war damages, the unfreezing of Iranian assets, on all of those, it's Iran that seems to have had the upper hand and not the United States. And that seems to indicate that Trump just wanted to get out of this war. He was desperate. Well, don't be deceived by the warm handshake, because obviously it's in a room full of world leaders. Tomorrow's meeting is going to be bilateral. It's the first time that both of them will be meeting since February of 2025. And, you look at the issues in the last year or so, there have been some persistent and issues that are really sort of stumbling this relationship. And a lot of it is coming from President Trump's side. First, it was the trade and tariffs, then the additional tariffs that were slapped because of Russian oil import. Then finally, in January of this year, we finally managed to arrive at some kind of an understanding of 18% tariffs. And then suddenly, the Supreme Court of the United States struck down the legal rationale for the tariffs. So we're basically in a limbo. We don't have that interim trade agreement between India and America. I believe Jameson Greer, who's the chief trade representative for the United States, will be in India next week to continue those trade negotiations. But India is one of the large nations with whom America still does not have a trade deal, and that is a big cause of concern. More proximately, more recently, we've seen the deaths of the 3 Indian sailors. These were civilians, these were not combatants, these were not military or Navy personnel, these were civilians who were in merchant naval vessels. They were killed, and it's not just bad enough that they were killed by US fire, US Navy fire. The State Department put out a statement thereafter, very contrite, not expressing any regret or remorse. And I expect the Prime Minister to take this issue up with President Trump when he meets him tomorrow, because, this is just not on. You just cannot kill innocent bystanders to this war, people who have nothing to do with this war. They're only ill fortune was that they happened to be stuck in the wrong place at the wrong time. And it's not like they were killed by Iranian fire or by Houthi fire or by Hamas fire. They were killed by American fire, which is a friendly nation, and friendly nations don't don't shoot at each other's citizens.
बिल्कुल। और G7 की सबसे बड़ी तस्वीर अगर इसे कहा जाए तो शायद गलत नहीं होगा। आप देख सकते हैं प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी और अमेरिकी राष्ट्रपति डोनाल्ड ट्रंप की ये मुलाकात G7 के इस मंच पर कैसे जो दोनों देशों की साझेदारी की जब हम बात कर रहे हैं, कैसे दोनों देश के जो ये नेता हैं एक दूसरे से हमेशा संपर्क में रहे हैं, लेकिन आज ये काफी समय बाद जो मुलाकात है